Well, here we are,
Plugoo.
another day. Good to see you guys. Are you
Have
having
something
an
very
effective week?
deeply effective, one might
Deeply
say.
effective.
Yeah.
One
I
might
uh,
say.
I asked somebody that question at work, and they were like, "What do you mean?"
They thought you
Uh,
sounded like a fool.
yeah. Um, I'm noticing some chatter in F3 Nation
Mm.
Slack about about some of our episodes, but also KOA from I think F3 North Kentucky has this thing about you know building up men as leaders in their community. Well,
Yeah.
I think the only other problems we can fix for another man are related to his feet, probably, right?
Love these socks. I used to just deal with my standard issue socks or buy some cheap socks from TJ Maxx. I didn't realize the importance of quality socks and how much it matters when you get to mile 10. These are game changers and we'll use them forever. How about this one? Rucked for 18.6 miles in the pouring rain in these socks with standard issue military boots during a Norwegian foot march event, which who knew there was such a thing as a Norwegian foot march event. My feet were soaking wet before stepping off from the starting line, but no blisters or hot spots at all. If you wear these amazing socks with footwear that fits you properly and are broken in, your feet are protected. Period.
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 Yeah.
Charles Johnston. There you have it. These are real life testimonials provided to me by F3's Malco, the proprietor of the Mudgear company, and also the manager of the F3 gear store.
I mean, no surprise to us, right? That those socks are life-changing.
No.
Look, how long have we been saying that life is too short to wear crappy socks?
If you're going to be a winner, you're going to need a coach.
Sharpening doesn't happen by accident. A blade left untouched will rust, and a man left unchallenged will stagnate. Every man needs friction, resistance, and a whetstone to grind away weakness and reveal his true edge. Welcome to the Whetstone, where we reject comfort, disrupt the status quo, and forge men ready for impact. Hosted by Dredd, Dark Helmet, and me, the Plague. This is where men step out of the drift and into acceleration, because iron sharpens iron, and no man sharpens alone. And we're back.
We're back. Yeah.
We're back. I love it. Well, we started diving in a little bit, right, to Zebra Jockey stuff. And, I think last week was really a good.
ZJ.
The ZJ. Yeah, it was really good just to kind of get the lay of the land, sort of when and how this content came about. And I've actually, I had the chance to lead 2 different workouts this week, and my COT in both of them, I'm in a season of chaos, and I will say it's been helpful to kind of go through, but I also, I think what I'm learning or just kind of remembering, maybe I'd like to give myself credit that I've known this before, but the goal is not to control the chaos, right? But that's like totally my default, right? I'm like, okay, things are getting chaotic. Let me create a system or like a plan. I think today we're going to talk a little bit more about just this, the topic of chaos, and sort of it goes into really like just the state of our existence. And so I don't know, as we're going into that, I mean, I think one of the things that stood out to me, and I've been sharing this locally with guys, but just this idea that we don't extend our sense of existence as human beings to other species, right? We don't call dogs a dog being, but then one of the things that this article goes on to say, essentially is that even though we're aware of our existence, it doesn't give us authority over our existence. I don't know. I wonder if we could unpack that a little bit.
Our awareness alone amongst mammals, I guess, of all beasts, we are aware of our existence. Like we know we exist.
Yeah. When we look at ourselves in the mirror, we don't attack it thinking it's another one of us.
That's right.
Every other animal does.
Right.
Sometimes
we are able to conceptualize of ourselves as having an existence, a being. And I think that's why we call ourselves human beings. You know, we know of the past. We know there is such a thing as the future. And we know that the past affects the present, and planning for the future will affect it when that becomes the present. That's not something a dog can do or a horse can do. They just live in the moment at all times. And because we have that power, that comes from God in his own, having made us in his own image, it's natural that we would tend to think we had some sort of dominion over that,
Mhm.
that our existence is within our control. And that leads to this control mania, this addiction to control. And you talk about, if you look at chaos, which is uncontrollable circumstance, it's in the definition. It's uncontrollable. You can't control it. Uh, all you can do is surf it. You can get up on your board and surf it. It's going to take you where you go, where it wants you to go, but you can't control chaos any more than you can control a wave. It's going to crash, and it's going to be as big as small as it is, and then the waters will recede. And your life is continually like that. An uncontrollable wave of chaos comes in, and you either let it slam your face into the ground, or you surf it on in and get up and do it again.
Hmm.
And the surfers, the ones who surf the chaos rather than get slammed by it, are the ones who adapt, who view it as uncontrollable, know they can't do that, and plan accordingly, and are able to do so. And that's where the whole zebra jockey idea comes from.
Yeah.
And it's also not, just to also kind of add a little clarification on the back end of that, is it's also not a guy who just goes, who, throws up his hands and says, well, I can't control it. So I guess I'm just resolved to, just living with it. Right. So that's not an adapter. That's what would you call that? An acceptor, right? We're
Yeah,
not
I mean,
acceptors either as men.
yeah. So what the controller is focused on is the way he believes things should be,
Hmm.
whereas the adapter is focused on the way things could be. And that seems like the same word, should be, could be, but they're not, because should be leads you to think, well, there's something wrong with the design.
Hmm.
Some There's a mistake that's been made, and man can fix it. It is
Conceit, I believe you have
the
stated it.
central conceit of the
Yes.
controller to
Of the
believe
controller.
that God is capable of making mistakes that man must correct.
Hmm.
Whereas the adapter says, no, things certainly could be made better. However, and they could be a certain way. The fact that they're not that way now isn't a flaw in the design. It's a flaw. It's a flaw in man. It's our sinful nature.
Yeah.
This is not the way it was designed to be. It is because of the fall, and I can be part of the solution to urge it and coax it to what it could be. But I, through human artifice, cannot make it be the way I think it should be. It's really two very different things. And whereas the adapter says, okay, I, this is where it should be, or could be rather. This is a place of advantage. And how can I encourage you and persuade you to go there through leadership?
Hmm.
It's what the adapter would say. Whereas the controller says, how can I force you to recognize how wrong you are
Yeah.
and join me where it should be, at the point of a gun?
He will also draw a straight line and basically say, not just will you go this way and I will force you to go away, but you will go this one way and there is no other possible way
Hmm.
that it could work other than this one that I have deemed is the correct. Whereas
Right.
the adapter, I think, we talk about guardrails a lot, right? And I think the adapter
Right.
looks at life like that, where it's like, look, man, anywhere on the road where you're making forward progress, have at it, baby.
Yeah. Right.
Like, it's,
So we've talked a lot about beliefs, right? And if you don't have beliefs, or maybe a faith system, that you drift. But just kind of hearing, because one of the central questions this brings up, right, is because we're aware of our existence, then we start sort of demanding an explanation for the things that we can't control or for circumstances. But it seems like there's a pretty large relationship to faith and what a man believes and how they deal with chaos, right?
Well, certainly. I mean, if you didn't believe that there was a design to it, I'm not even talking about any specific denomination or
Or
particular
designer,
worldview,
just
but
you know, was this an accident? Is there
yeah,
something that this is for? Yeah.
right, right. If there's no designer, then it's left to us humans to make it the way it should be. If there is a designer, then it's not for us to make it the way it should be. It's for us to help return it to the way it could be or is supposed to be, I suppose. Well, or was the way it was designed.
Mm.
And that, yeah, that definitely requires faith. And I think that controllers, and later in the book, we get to the point where controllers ultimately become utopian. They believe in the perfectibility of man. It- It's not that uh, man's sinful nature is a consequence and a circumstance that cannot be changed by man. It's that it's a just a flaw that could be fixed.
Yeah.
Man can be perfected.
Yeah. Somehow it was a mistake. Don't
It
worry.
was That's
We'll
right.
take care of it.
Right.
It is funny because it, kind of comes somewhat back, I think, to this question that we've addressed on here a couple times of agency, right? And when you really get down to it, you're looking at a guy or a person, but a guy in our case, right? Where, if he's a controller and we've talked about Andis and Orist and all, all the spectrum,
Yep.
that kind of stuff, right? So if a guy's a controller and he believes this is the way and there's one right way and all that kind of stuff, he really is seeking to remake things in his own image and not submit himself to the way that they are designed, right? So it's not an accident. God knew that the fall was going to happen, right? Wasn't he,
Mhm.
right? He gave man a choice. Man chose. That was, this is what happened, right? He knew that was going to happen. He set a plan in place so that we were redeemable, right? He gave us the opportunity to choose the path of redemption or to choose a path that we will make of our own.
Mm.
So we either remake the plan in our own image. And guys, look, I see this in F3, and I don't mean it to sound, but guys are like, well, we're going to add a bunch of rules because we think it ought to be this way. Well, that's fine. And I get it, but here's what's going to happen. And I've seen it. It happens. I have yet to see it be successful. Maybe there's one that I don't know about, but a guy says, I don't like the way you do it. I'm going to control every aspect of this because you people don't get it. I'm going to add all these rules. I'm going to put all these conditions on. I'm going to change these things, change these things, change these things.
Mm.
Usually what happens, this guy jumps out. Some guys have even launched their own websites. And what happens in about 6 to 8 weeks? It's all over.
Mm-hmm.
It's all over because they don't understand that not only is it not possible, it is a completely undesirable state for any man to go, well, I love living under this thumb of someone else. It is fantastic. It's the best. They call it prison for a reason. Like, no one's like, I can't wait to get back in there,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So there's this element of liberty and agency. And why do I mess it up? But the freedom to choose, free will, right?
Free will.
That is built in there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
True. And if you believe in free will and you believe in the condition of fallen man, you recognize that the things that are not right. I mean, both a controller and an adapter could probably agree on the things of the world that are not ideal. But the controller, lacking faith, would say, through the hands of man, they can be fixed forever.
Yeah.
And the adapter says, no,
I don't.
only through God can we ever hope to approach what could be.
Yeah.
But you have to do it voluntarily.
Yeah.
That's the key. That's when you talk about agency.
Yeah.
Is the controller always resorts to compulsion and chicanery, and in his pursuit to make everyone happy, he only ends up making everyone equally unhappy.
which,
The
which
only
ironically
oh,
is hilariously, it's like, and he, I think, believes that that's a better state than some having
sure,
and some not having.
sure, sure.
Because he doesn't
And because
understand that everyone could have
right,
if they would just choose it.
a big part of the controller's view about what's wrong with the world is that there are victims and oppressors.
Mm.
And that's in every utopia, every single one has always designated the victim for whom the controller advocates and the oppressor against whom the the controller focuses the energy of the state.
Mm.
And it does that to explain to provide an explanation to the passives as to why they should abdicate their agency to him. So if on one hand of the continuum, one end you have the controller and the other end the adapter, the great majority in the middle are passives. Really neither, right? You know, they don't have a view of how the world should be or could
Whichever
be.
way the wind is blowing harder at that time, they'll probably capitulate.
Right, right. Well, they're just getting through the day, you know?
Yeah. So it doesn't really matter, is my point. Yeah.
Right. That's what in communism they call the proletariat. And, you know, communism designated the working man, the proletariat, whatever, as the victim, and the capitalist as the oppressor, to justify taking from the capitalist or the landowner, to justify taking from them and making them the 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 bad guy, the black hat in this, on behalf of the poor, you know, peasant, serf, I guess, in Russian communism. That was their victim oppressor. Nazi, it was, you know, the poor German who at the end of World War I was subjected to economic turmoil, and the world would not recognize the natural superiority of the Germans. And of course, the easy oppressor for them was the Jews. Uh, the French Revolution, you know, it was the people who had been, you know, denied bread and whatever, and the oppressor was the royal, you know, the royal family. I mean, it's always been the same. They always follow the same basic pattern, and they say, well, you victims, you can be freed, you can achieve the status of what you should be, and we can fight against the oppressor on your behalf. Now, what that means is for a
All
short
we need
period
is
of time,
everything you own.
you're going to have to give us the power for a period of time.
Yeah.
You know, and with that power, we will do right in your name. And of course, you read Animal Farm, and at end of Animal Farm, the pigs are wearing clothes and walking around on their feet, right? Because ultimately they become the oppressor anyway. And that's human nature. All utopians, all utopias operate in the same exact way. And they address chaos that way because chaos is how they do it. For the passive, passive says, I don't want chaos. Help me. And so the you know the oppressor says, okay, well, there's an easy way to do that. We'll just have more rules.
Yeah,
We'll
we'll
have more
remove all
laws.
chaos.
Yeah.
No problem.
Yes.
Don't worry.
We will legislate away
I can legislate
chaos.
it. Yeah.
And
pain.
Is the goal for us to accept chaos and lead through it? Or because in my mind, like I'm thinking, okay, if I'm a guy, maybe I'm struggling, right? The chaos in my life I'm trying to control. So it seems like the acceleration path for if I'm in that phase would be to pursue understanding that. But I'm trying to figure out like we know
there are
chaos is
chaotic
part of-
events, Plague, and then there is general chaos.
It's just life, right?
Right. The acceptance of certain things that are unchangeable. You're
Yeah.
talking about problems, maybe, right? There are problems that come up, and we know in F3 we talk about a problem is an undesirable condition that I have some kind of influence over and that can be solved, and I should.
I can and must.
Must, right?
Capital P problem.
Capital P
big
problem.
Right.
Yeah. But there's also capital C condition, which is, it's raining outside. I can't do anything about that.
Yeah.
And so I can run around crying and screaming about it, and I can yell and I can throw rocks at the sky and tell the clouds to stop, but it's not going to change anything.
Right.
Right. And so what I hear you saying, I think is like, oh, you got situations in your life. They may be chaotic events. You may be feeling the effects of some chaos, but a general acceptance of the fact that most things that you encounter in your life are not things that you can nor should attempt to control.
Right.
I'm arguing.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
I was arguing in front of the Court of Appeals yesterday in Raleigh.
How
And
fun.
oh yeah. So you have 30 minutes to argue as the appellant, which means my client does not like a ruling of the trial court, so we're appealing it to the Court of Appeals, and we have to write briefs and we show up and it's 30 minutes, and there's 3 judges. So to prepare for this, you read the briefs, obviously your brief and the opposing party's brief, and you try to think what the questions might be, whatever, and you chart out what you're going to say. And sometimes you get up there and you start talking, they don't say much, and you might talk for 30 minutes. So you have you could have an outline. There's a lot of different things you could do. Other times you get asked questions, some of which you anticipate, some of which you don't. And they're asking you because they're trying to figure it out. The judges are trying to figure out what to do. Anyway, I get up there yesterday. The way I do it is I don't have a notebook. I take 2 manila folders and I tape them together. So I have like a giant two manila folder wide thing. And I just put different arguments, like what I would say and the law and the fact, the back it up, things I don't have committed to memory. So if I get asked a specific question, like where in the record is it, I could tell them. Or what exactly does this case say, and I could tell them. So I don't put it in any particular order, really. Just put some here, some there, kind of like a
Is
Bob
this
Ross
part of the
painting.
sticky notes? Is this
Yeah,
sticky
no,
notes?
this is similar to sticky notes,
Similar,
but
okay.
that's trial court, but this is appellate, right? So,
Got it.
So anyway, go through what I'm going to give as an argument, closing argument. If I'm going to make a speech, I don't write it down. I just go through it in my head when I take a shower before I go. I just say it in my head. And I'm able to remember that. So I'm saying it in my head, taking a shower, get dressed, go. They call the case. You always say, "May I please the court? David Redding for the appellant." I said, "This case began in 2015 when my client installed a retaining wall in the lake bed of Lake Norman, 15 feet away from the edge of his property, and they started asking questions." That's all I said. My part of the plan got that far. And for the next 30 minutes, they asked me one question after another. And probably 20% of the questions I did not anticipate at all. Just they were focused on some aspect of the case that I hadn't thought about. However, I had a lot of general knowledge about the case. I mean, I took it through the trial court. I knew. I'd argued this once before on a different issue at the Supreme Court, so I knew. But I wasn't specifically prepared to answer a lot of these questions, but I was generally prepared to do so. 30 minutes of absolute chaos. Now, my opponent gets up and he gets asked questions, and he tried to change the question. It was interesting. He got asked
to be something he wanted to answer?
Yeah. He tried to control the questions. And and that's a very common thing you see in lawyers that are more toward the control bent. They tend to have a notebook like page after page. And they're going to, they have an outline. They're going to,
Yeah, so he's trying to make court in his own image. He's trying to say
right.
No, I know how this is supposed to go.
Right.
Yeah.
The argument should be this way. Whereas as an adapter, I'm like, the argument could be that way.
It's however it ends up.
I have to lead you, Court of Appeals, 3 judges. I have to lead you there. You ask me a question, I can't say, I'm not going to answer that because this is what I want to say. I have to answer it in a way that leads them to want to then ask the question I want asked. That's what an adapter would do. And you could say, well, they shouldn't ask me questions that aren't part of the brief.
Right? That aren't super relevant to this certain thing that
Right.
Yeah.
Right. The first question they asked me is, what's controlling the meets and bounds survey or the elevation on the lake bed. Now, actually, didn't have much to do with the case. I knew the answer, and I told him the answer, and then I said, and that brings up a very interesting point that I want to get to. So that's how you have to
Right.
do it, right? Now,
Yeah.
this is how you have to function as an adapter. Is you just bound and determined to ride that horse, but if it's a zebra, jump on that too. It looks a little bit like a horse, not necessarily made to ride, but you can do it. You look funny.
It's running.
It'll it'll get you there. And to do that, you're really operating on three general principles that apply to adaptation, the ability to adapt, to be a zebra jockey. And the first one is you don't believe in finish lines.
Mm.
And the second one is you're always diversifying your skill set.
Yeah.
That's pretty important. And the third one is that the best ability is scalability. So those are the three principles of zebra jockeying. And
Now, a couple of those make sense. What does that? Explain that last one.
The best ability is scalability. So you heard the expression, the best ability is availability, right? Meaning, I don't have to be the best at anything. I just have to be there when you call. Okay, I believe in availability, certainly, but availability is downstream from scalability. And this is what I mean. So I've been practicing law for 29 years this year. And after a certain period of time, I got decently good at it that I could attract clients. And I started getting more work than I could do myself. So as a young lawyer, while you're learning how to lawyer, you're getting work from older lawyers, and you're starting to get your own work, and slowly those two things switch. And there's one period of time, kind of like being at the top of a swing, where before you start coming down, where you have the amount of work you're getting just about equals the amount of work you can do. It's like, and then if you keep on going, the amount of work you're getting is more than the amount of work you can do. And you say, I would really like to control the flow of work I'm getting. And that is a fallacy. It cannot be done. If you try to do that, your work will fade away. You need to take all work that comes your way that you're capable of doing. The only way you could do more work than you are capable of doing is to have other people doing it for you.
Yeah.
Is to scale what you do by hiring, training younger person, having them do some portion of it under your supervision. So you're using much of your time to do work, and then some of your time to supervise the work being done by others, and some of your time training others to do work. That's how you scale. And if you don't scale, you can't be avail. If you get a case,
Because it'll be all tied up.
Right.
Yeah.
So yesterday morning, I'm getting ready for this hearing, and I check my emails real quick, and I've got 2 or 3 new cases. And I immediately forward those to other people and say, call this guy back. And so that's scalability. You can't really ride the zebra unless you got a zebra saddle handy.
Yeah.
You really can't. You have to have that. You have to have created that bandwidth, that redundancy to be able to do it. That's why that's the third principle of the zebra jockey.
And so when you start looking at how do you apply that outside of the courtroom or outside of, some of these other things, right? Or the hypothetical zebra, and you start saying to yourself, well, okay, what about, F3, right? Well, you watch it all the time, right? The Nantans who insist on doing everything, who insist on every new workout that gets launched must go through them. It must be approved. It must be in a site that is, approximately 17.4, meters away, whatever, like for, kilometers from another that are, and they really go through this and they build a whole spreadsheet and it's all beautiful. Right. And those regions are always the ones that struggle because they violate one of the absolute core tenets of zebra jockeying and F3ing, of being a man, which is individual initiative, sua sponte leadership, allowing for the chaos, adapting, vaping.
Right. Those things are definitely tied together.
Yeah.
And, you know, if in F3, if we want to um, be able to have workouts available to every guy who needs it, right? Uh, then we have to have a lot of other workouts. I mean, if we just if F3 Metro is still just AG,
No,
right? If F3 Fort was still, you know, I can't remember the name,
just
Alicia
Walter
Park,
Elisha Park. Yeah.
Walter Alicia Park. I mean, you're not providing anybody any options. You're not scaled out, right?
Right.
And the more workouts you have, the more opportunities you have for guys to lead.
Mm.
And
So
it's always funny too, because there's all these guys too who want to, you know, when they want to build it in their own image, right? And they want to say, look at what I've built. Look at this
Yeah.
amazing thing that I have done. And they try to make their region as large as humanly possible. These vast land holdings that I now as Nantan have.
Right.
Right. And every time, like, it starts to die.
Yeah.
Because like Dredd says, you're going exactly opposite of what you're trying to. You're controlling. You're not adapting to what is before you.
You're not building a team.
Yeah.
And in almost every organization, I think there's very few exceptions to this. I would try to think of one. You guys help me. The guy who's most highly compensated is not the guy who's best at doing the thing the organization does. Rather, it's the guy who's willing to take the most responsibility and who is also the best builder of teams.
Yeah.
That's the guy that's the most highly compensated because he takes responsibility for the outcome, good, bad, or whatever. And that makes him a valuable member of the organization. He's not a guy who's looking to avoid responsibility. You know, you just think about the people in your organizations who you work with. You're like, a guy who won't take any responsibility is not really much worth to you. I mean, he may be able to go get lunch and something like that.
Right.
But when you have, if you have 3 tasks to accomplish and only bandwidth to do 2, and you need someone else to be the queue of the 3rd one, and you walk in the guy's office, first guy's office, and you tell him, hey man, I need you to pick this up, take care of it. Will you do it? And he asks you 1,000 questions and ultimately says, well, I just want to make sure that, I mean, you're still in charge, right? Well, you haven't really done me any good, brother, because now I still have responsibility for 3 things. You walk in the second guy's office and you say, I need this to be done. And the guy says, got it. Who gets promoted? Who's highly more valued?
Yeah.
It's that guy that takes it and makes it happen. That's the guy you have higher value. Whether or not he's the best at it or not, really don't even cross your mind, right? I mean, the skill thing is of second order. Now, the team part, the team is related to that. The team building part is related to that. The fact that you can go to that second guy and have him perform the task adequately is not random. It's because you provided him with the 3 things that are required for individual initiative. You made clear the mission. You taught him everything that you knew how to do. And then you rewarded him every time he took an individual initiative, regardless of outcome. Then when you walk into his office and you say, I need you to take care of this, he knows how to take initiative. He's not afraid to do it. He knows that if there's a failure that you're not going to flip out on him.
Yeah.
He will take responsibility. You take those 2 things together, and that man who will take on responsibility and who can build a team, he's the most highly compensated man in the organization. Yeah. Always the truth. Always the truth.
You kind of told it almost sounded like a modern day version of the parable of the talents, right? Is kind of what I was hearing as you were saying that, right? Of just,
bingo.
You know, because I love the guy that I give him a task, he does it, and he comes back and says, hey, I added this little, you know, flavor to make it better or whatever, right, of their own. I think I'm currently in a season where I'm onboarding a new manager. I've got all these things coming in at work and just finding myself like, I don't know if he's ready to take on stuff. And so I'm drifting into like control, which is just creating more chaos. And so I love just the call out of like the way we get out of this season of chaos is through building up other men and people to lead.
Plague.
Yeah.
How do you get better at pull-ups?
You do some. Yeah.
You do more pull-ups. Right?
How do you get better at delegating?
It's a garden that you plant.
Yeah.
And ultimately what you're looking for that guy who not only will perform the step that you have directed, he will also, without instructions, pick up and accomplish the step you neglected.
Yeah.
Right? That's that dude. Like, okay, You told me to go
invaluable.
do this. Right. You told me to do this and I did it. You didn't know about this, but I did that too.
Yeah.
The step I directed and the step I neglected. The guy who does that, I don't even know. You can't assess his value, right?
Yeah. Yep.
You cannot assess his value. You can always find a guy who will follow your last instruction. Steve's the guy
That's
who
what he's
not only
saying.
follows
Different
your
guy.
yeah,
That's it.
different guy. The guy who follows your last instruction, but it's also the guy who performs the instruction you would have given if you had time.
Yeah. So we talked about, right? So chaos is a condition, not a problem. But then I'm also thinking through, and maybe just some of the Zebra Jockey stuff. So chaos is a condition, and then virtuous leadership that is taught through the Q source is the solution, or is the framework, or
Yeah.
okay.
I'll give you framework. Yes.
Okay.
Dredd, do you have a different view on that?
There's no solution to a condition,
Yeah.
Okay.
Can't fix it.
right?
Dang it.
There's a
no
framework
solution
for
to-
dealing with it.
Right. There's no
I
solution
got
to
a
a
lot of
condition, right?
conditions.
Right. So, you say,
Don't
is there
confuse
a
the two.
Yeah. Is there a time when there'll be no chaos?
No.
No.
Well,
not until
yeah.
Well,
not
yeah.
well we
Right.
followers
As-
of Christ believe
Yes.
that in his 1,000-year kingdom, when he rules, chaos will end.
Yeah.
For that 1,000 years.
Yeah.
Depending on your eschatological viewpoint. I have a hard time with that word, but depending on that viewpoint, that's what we believe. But outside of that,
Yeah.
I mean, you just look at the newspaper and you realize that we're in a constant state of chaos. And because of that, we have to have leadership within it so that we are always moving towards advantage, but never thinking we get there. Remember, that's the first principle of the chaos of the Zebra
infinite
Jockey,
game, right?
is there is no finish line. So I'll give you the very briefest of vignettes to support that story. When I'm getting ready for Army Ranger School 40 years ago last month, ironically, and we know we had to be in shape in different ways. And we had this one particular captain who was trying to improve our running. We had about 12 guys going to Ranger School. And we would meet this guy in this parking lot where this field was after working because we were doing extra PT. And he would just come out and say, okay, today we're going to run 2.6 miles in 7 minutes at 7:20 pace. There's always like some random distance, random speed, right? And we start at the parking lot, we'd run, he'd set the pace, you had to stay with him, and we'd stop when we got back to the cars. And, along the way, you just kind of turned your brain off and just stayed with the guy. It was a captain. We were all lieutenants. So every couple of days we did this, different distance, different pace. Get down to the last day, and he says, all right, man, we're running 5 miles at 7-minute pace, which, we've been building up to that. I was capable of doing it. I knew it was going to hurt. So we get out there at the cars, start running, staying with this guy is about 10 feet ahead of us. And where we were in the post, as we would come around this long turn, and you could see the cars in the distance. And I remember as I saw the cars, I said, okay. It's like one of those high fatigue things, like your vision is down in this bubble. It's like you're sucking hard, but I'm staying with the guy. I just got to get to the cars. I just got to get to the cars. And then we get closer and closer to the cars, and I'm like, almost there, almost there, almost there. And that SOB runs right through there. He doesn't stop at the cars. And 10 of the guys followed him. 2 of us, I'm ashamed to say I was one of them, stopped at the cars. And he goes another 100 meters or so, whatever. And they stop there, and he turns around and waves us down. And me and the other guy walk down there, and he says, why'd you stop? And I said, well, we've gotten to the finish line. He said, when have I ever said the words finish line? And I said, well, we got to the 5-mile mark. He said, nope, this is the 5-mile mark. He goes, I never, ever said that was the finish line. You just put that in your head. And thinking that there's a finish line will cause you to quit when you still have something in the tank. There is no finish line. Now, a month or 2 later, I'm in Ranger School itself, getting ready to get done with the first phase. And they have a series of tests: jump in this water, jump out of this thing, jump on that. But one of the last things we did is get out in the street, and they say you got to run 5 miles in 8 minutes, 8-minute miles. Well, I did it in 7-minute miles, but not when I was cold, hungry, and tired. But I still think I can do it. It's not like being in a Charlotte Marathon. There's nice little signs going 1 mile, 2 mile.
That's
We're
right.
just out in the middle of woods, man, on a dirt path, and you're in a formation. And they say, look, as long as you stay in this formation, you'll be running 8-minute miles. So we're running, and I don't know where we are. I don't know how far we are. I don't know. Really, I don't know. Only because they said so do we know we're even running 8-minute miles. And guys are falling out of the formation. Guys are like, where the heck are we? When's this over? They're falling out. And I just kept saying over and over again, there is no finish line. There is no finish line. I kept telling myself like a mantra, there is no finish line. Sure enough, it's dark, it's like before dawn, and suddenly we got around the corner and some guy yells, stop. And they stand there and they say, okay, you guys passed. It's the guys who are still in the formation. I don't know if I could have done it if I was still thinking in terms of finish lines. I'd have been just like these other guys. Like, I need to know the mile marker. Are we really doing this? I was like, but I had been trained by that captain to believe that there is no finish line. And that meant I was adapting. I wasn't trying to control it like I was the time I stopped. I stopped because I said, this is the finish line. I was trained out of that, and not having a finish line, I just adapted. Hell, we could have ran 6 miles for all I know. Maybe we ran 4 miles. I don't even know. Doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
And honestly, he may not have even cared. The point was maybe that wasn't
right,
even the exercise.
Right. But I just ran until I ran until the ranger instructors said stop. And then I stopped. And if you apply that lesson to life and you don't construct your own finish line, you will just continue to drive on and adapt. Chaos. You don't say this chaos must end. Remember, we used to say this a lot in F3. I don't hear guys saying it much anymore, but we'd be saying, in cadence and saying it's supposed to hurt. It has to end. That's the nature of time. That was the kind of thing I would think about. Like, it's the nature of time. Everything must end. You just don't get to be the guy who determines its end.
Yeah.
You don't do that. You just keep going because there is no finish line.
No rhyme.
That's rule 1 of the Zebra Jockey. Rule 3 again is
scalability.
Right.
Scalability.
Yeah.
The best ability is scalability.
Rule 2 is very simple, is diversity of skill. Always be diversifying your skill set.
Yeah.
Never miss a chance to learn how to do something new. Now, you might say, what about all the D2X stuff and all that? I say, that still applies. That still applies.
Yeah, but skills and purpose are not the same.
They're not the same, right?
And guys get them conflated all the time.
Right. Not the same. And if you have a diversified skill set, when you face some sort of black swan situation, like what you thought you were going to be doing for the rest of your life ceases to exist. Because if you were working in a buggy
you're headed
whip,
into it. Have you seen AI?
Right.
You're headed into it. Yeah.
You're working in a buggy whip factory and you're a great buggy whip maker and not having any idea what's going to happen when Henry Ford starts cranking out cars. And if you're a guy who was always diversifying your skill set, not only can you make a buggy whip, but you can also make a tire. Guess what?
Ta-da.
You're in pretty good, when chaos confronts you, you are going to be able to adapt quickly.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be able to adapt quickly. That's the key. Zebra Jockey jumps on that zebra very, very quickly. He doesn't dither. He just says,
and the
changes
Zebra
are
Jockey,
coming.
by learning the diversified skills, right? The D2X and all, he actually becomes more useful in his D2X because then he can apply it across myriad situations.
Right. That's right.
And whereas, and I think of you think about, we talk about Mammon a lot in here or whatever, but I think of my current situation, right? So the current employment that I have is not one that I made for myself, which is what I did for the last 20 years before this, right? But, it's employment that I have that came to me, has nothing to do with my education directly, had nothing to do with what I did for the last 20 years directly. But because I had a purpose, and a diversified skill set, they were more than happy to hire me, pay me what I wanted to get paid, and all that kind of stuff, even though I had never done this. I mean, in fact, to the point
Right.
where they were like, here, write your job description and come do the things that you said you would do.
Mm.
Right.
Mhm.
That's does that make sense? Because
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
on purpose. That's who you become, because you're willing to say, hey man, I ain't in charge.
Yeah.
I ain't in charge.
Yeah, it's interesting just hearing like how these things are related. It makes me wonder if guys knew that the purpose of like a shield lock and a whetstone is really, I guess part of my takeaway from this conversation is like those things are part of the concentrica to help us in like this world of ever changing uncontrollable circumstances. But I think we often look at those as like, well, how's that going to help me with career advancement? So then it's sort of like, well, I don't feel like I need that right now. But the reality is like, we always
Yeah.
need
Those,
it.
those guys don't know how to get me promoted.
Right. So
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's just it's a different way of looking at that, but just understanding like chaos will always be there. I will never be
Always
able to
be there.
control it. It will
Right.
likely change as I age and my family ages and things happen. So having these relationships to me is really
I think one of the most freeing days of my life, and I can't point to the date, I don't remember when the switch flipped, right, exactly. But
Right.
coming to that realization of, oh, wait a minute. Not only am I not in control, I'm not supposed to be in control. That is not the design of God, is for me to be in control. The design of God is for me to let go, allow him to be in control, and to use my free will to do my best to be obedient, to follow, to those the two great commandments and all that kind of stuff, right? But the day that I kind of just said, oh, I guess there's something to this whole like surrender idea that everybody's been
Yeah.
talking about for so long, right? And then
Right.
suddenly the amount of possibilities that open before you
Yeah.
when you're willing to do that, virtually limitless. But if you're in control, if you want to be in control, you limit yourself to one, maybe two things that you could even possibly do, you will find yourself miserable. Just miserable. Is that I mean, would you have a similar
Well,
experience? Or
yeah,
thought?
it's a fool's errand to try to exert control. It cannot be done.
Mm.
I mean, you might gain power and then misuse it. Even if you start out, I don't care. That's why they say power corrupts, right? Absolute power corrupts absolutely, is because we really, as human beings, should not have the power over other people. And the only man you can trust with power is the man who's adamantly opposed to having it,
Mm.
because he will dispense it in
I was gonna say,
micro doses.
because all he really wants is influence. He just wants to help influence you
He
to
wants
do what you
people
need.
to
Yeah.
he wants people to move to advantage freely and voluntarily, because he persuaded them to do so by showing them, articulating them to them how it was a better place where they are now, and then patiently and powerfully persuading them to release the status quo.
Mm.
That's what the adapter ultimately wants to do. He does it for himself, and he wants to teach other people how to do it. He wants to free them from the prison of their own self delusion that control is an option, that it is something that could work.
Yeah.
That's what he wants to do. And it's much more difficult and takes a lot more skill, and is a the longer game, the infinite game, as you would say, Dark, to set about doing that than it would be to simply gain control over an institution so that you can force people along the path that you designate. That's the Ozempic of
Leadership.
Right?
The
I mean,
GLP-1 of
that's the
Yeah.
Ozempic of the human condition, to say, oh well, you're not, because think about what you learn as you do release the status quo and you're persuaded to move to advantage, and you accept the fact that pain is inevitable but misery is a choice. Think about that.
Yeah.
You overcome obstacles and you become more durable and you become stronger and you realize, "Oh, I can do these things." And that man, if you do that, you lead a man through that, and out of the other side, you create a zebra jockey rather than a sheep who's just becomes passive and says, "Well, I can't, there's no fight in City Hall." Like Dark, you said, what about the guy who's neither? That passive is a sheep.
Yeah.
He follows the tails and the trails in
Yeah.
front of him.
As soon as the
You
wind's
know?
blowing harder the other way, he'll
Right.
go that way.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the proverbial man who leads a life of quiet desperation. Who wants to do that? Nobody voluntarily wants to do
I would
it.
say nobody wants to. Some resign themselves to it because, as my good friend Funhouse said to me, and I don't know where he stole it from, so I just attribute it to him. But he said most men would rather be miserable than to be uncomfortable.
Sure.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you guys have recognized this, but I think what kind of where I'm at. So when I was, 1 week, 30 days sober, it was really clear that I'm not in control, and it's actually probably a bad idea if like with the situation, and I used to always say like, my best decision.
I was just gonna say,
front
I
row
love your,
seat, in a
Yeah.
12-step program. But the further out from that, it's almost like you start to kind of convince yourself, like you make a couple good decisions or you get a promotion and you start to kind of convince yourself like, oh wait, maybe I do make some good decisions or maybe I can control and so I'm like having to just constantly like be in the word and lean on some of those guardrails as reminders, but it's still my default is just like, oh no, how am I going to fix this or control it? And I don't know if maybe the answer is that is always the default because of our human condition. I don't know.
Partially, and societal pressure and things you get taught by other people and the stuff you watch on TV and whatever, these perfectly packaged vignettes and scenarios that get pummeled in your brain all the time, right?
Yeah.
I don't remember if it was here or if it was on a different podcast, but I remember talking recently about I have found the way I think about it in my head now is a lot of times these things come and they start screaming to be fixed, and I realize that it's either beyond my skill set, which is one thing, that easily you can outsource something like that, right? But those things that I know that it probably is mine to fix or to deal with or whatever, and I just am not, I'm not really sure, and I've started just putting them on the shelf. Do we talk about that? And then waiting for God to kind of nudge it over the edge, and then I'll catch it when He decides I'm ready to catch it, right? So I just kind of set them up there, and I let them sort of do their thing, and I pray and I talk about it. And I'm like, any heads up when this thing's coming down, let me know, whatever, right?
Yeah.
But and then I just sort of wait because the timing of that will always be perfect. He knows when my hands are free. He knows when my mind and my situational awareness is such that I'll see this thing falling, and I need to stop worrying about it so much. I take a breath. I was on a podcast the other day with some guys, and it was an FCAM podcast, as a matter of fact, Dreadliest. And he was like, what advice would you give to leaders of men's groups within our church? And I said, I think the biggest one I would give is relax. Like, stop it. Like, breathe. Either you really believe this whole thing that we've been teaching that God is sovereign, God's in control. Either we actually believe that or we don't. And if we actually believe it, then it's time to start living it like we believe it.
Yeah, that's a good
And
point.
because one of these things that we find in our lives all the time is these guys are like, well, I don't like the way this is going. I don't like the way that's going. Okay. We can cry about it, right? My 16-year-old would say, right? And when you're done weeping and wailing and gnashing your teeth, right? Then get back in the game and relax. And I heard a great one this was years ago, but it was in a sales system, the Sandler sales system, if you're familiar. But Dave Sandler was like, most of life comes down to 3 seconds of courage at a time. He's like, if I put you in and play basketball, right, it's a quick decision, and to do something to take a strike. And but Dredd said it, right? A man's life is I'm going to mess it up. Basically a conglomeration of few bold strikes and the rest of it's just discipline.
Thousand small steps, or
Yeah,
like
and
3
one
bold
bold.
moves.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
yeah.
So you need like 3
Right.
seconds of courage a day. And then the rest of the time, just enjoy playing basketball. Like just enjoy whatever's going on. Just relax and let things happen, because either you believe that God is sovereign and he has your life in his hands and he will guide you and direct you, and he knows all possibilities that you could choose, and he will clear the path ahead of you if you'll let him. Either you believe that or you don't. And if you don't believe that, friend, I would offer up a personal experience, testimony, if you will, however you want to call it, right? And just say, I promise you it's better over here. I promise you it's better over here, right? Just, it's okay.
Yeah.
Whatever hurt you in the past, right? Whatever kept you locked up thinking that control was the only way to keep you safe, because I think that's what most guys want, and that's why they do it. Whatever it is that you believe that makes you think that that's the way to keep yourself safe from harm and things is actually, it's counterproductive. The best way to do it, is for me to seek the help, to turn it over, and like you said, to share it with the Shield Lock, to share it with a Whetstone, to share it with whoever, and then also to submit myself, right?
Yeah. From my experience, I love, because if we allow it, God will teach us some of these lessons. If we're listening, if we're watching, and it reminds me of the other day, I showed up I thought I was meeting some guys for a pre-run. And I, showed up, nobody was there. So I'm like, oh, okay. I'm going to go. Right. So I started out really just down this dirty road, started out all alone. And the sun went down as I crossed the hill, and the town lit up and the world got still. And I'm learning to fly, but I ain't got wings. Coming down is the hardest thing.
Hardest thing.
So that's what he's teaching me. Not Geddy Lee.
That's not Geddy Lee.
It's not Geddy Lee.
Not Geddy Lee.
I don't know what that is. I think it's Tom Petty.
It is.
We always get to like the 55-minute mark or so, and I'm trying to watch Plague's eyes to see when it's coming.
Because his eyes go down, and you can see
I'm working
down
on eye control. I know you're looking for that. So
it doesn't matter, because your whole tone, your whole demeanor changes.
Does it?
When it's coming?
I go into
don't worry
song.
about it.
Yeah. I'll have to get better. But this to me is really good. I do think it's interesting how interwoven all of this stuff is, but I think for me, just
it all came out of the same head, Plague. So it's
yeah.
Man, if that were true.
Yeah.
Well, it was assembled, and then
yeah.
I didn't say you came up with nothing.
I'm not a philosopher. I'm a scribe.
I'm
an
organizer.
I'm good at seeing things that everybody's seeing and saying, and giving it funny names and putting it in an order that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. We did a Q-Source topic this week on with shared leadership. And I think that my joke is always when I have my wife read Q-Source stuff, and she's like, it's so repetitive, and I'm like, well, that's because that's what we need. But every time I open that book or we start talking about some of the stuff with guys, it just resonates, and so hopefully this resonates with guys too, because I think as we're unpacking this, like, it just had this light bulb moment of like, well, chaos is the reason I need a Whetstone, not some other thing. Like, so I don't know, that really resonated with me. So I appreciate you guys just continuing to enlighten me on some of these things.
Yeah, it's funny. I was telling Cass, the last, I don't know, what is today, the 13th? This 6 weeks since the new year have been impossible for me. And when I was looking at my calendar when I got back from New Year's, I mean, literally from the first, whatever years, I think it was the third or fourth day. And I said, there's just absolutely no way this happens. The next 2 months are undoable. I'm in trials, and I got hearings, and I had committed to multiple retreats, and I'm going in the middle of it. I'm doing F3 ski, and I'm thinking maybe I should cancel F3 ski, but I don't want, and I just said, God is in charge, not me. I've been crucified with Christ and no longer live, but Christ lives in me. The life I now live in the body, I live by faith in the Son of God who loves me and gave up his life for me. Right? Galatians 2:20. He's got it. And every single time I felt like I was driving towards a fork in the road that both sides had a cliff, like it's not going to work. Something at the last second would just change.
Hmm.
You know, the snow thing changed a bunch of both those snow things that we had here in Charlotte. We had two icy snow.
Never
events.
happened. Hasn't happened in, I don't know. I mean,
It
never
rearranged.
happens. Yeah.
It rearranged my schedule completely, and but it just made it doable.
Hmm.
And so I had a hearing today that I didn't even know about. Or actually, I was going to have somebody else do it. Last second, the client said, "Oh, you wanted me to do it," and I assumed the thing was scheduled for 3. I assumed it would take like an hour and a half, and I was going to miss this. And I mean, the first thing the judge, 'cause there's multiple motions. First thing he says, calls my motion first, and he says, "Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you guys 5 days to come to the right decision yourself, and then I'm going to do something nobody likes." That was 2 minutes,
Wow.
and I went and took a nap, and then got on this call.
Okay.
It keeps happening, and you just you know you just have to. And the busier you are, and this will get down to the Zebra Jockey thing, because this is the 3rd time this week I've given that talk. I gave that talk to an architectural firm that had me in for their leadership retreat. I said, "What do you want? What do you want to hear?" And they said, "Well, we're facing a lot of changes, and people are feeling really nervous, and we want them just some way. If you could talk about change and chaos." I said, "I can't."
You got the right guy.
And I gave that what I was saying about the 3 principles, because that's not in the book.
I was going to say that.
Yeah, that's not in the book. So that was the talk I gave. It was about 20 minutes. I kind of truncated it just now. I also, coming back from the Court of Appeals yesterday, my client and I drove together, and he started talking about, I don't know what's coming next, whatever. He goes, "How do you deal with that?" And I gave it again. And then I felt like today.
And here we are, third time.
And, when I was trying to decide what to talk about these guys, I got up, I was taking a shower, and it just popped in my head. And if you trust God that what you're doing is the righteous thing, and you say, "Well, Lord, I know you're going to put the words in my mouth when the time comes.
Yeah.
I know you are. I know you are. And if I just trust you, I know everything's going to work out, because, you work out everything
for my good,
in accordance to the purpose of the people you love." Right? Yeah, I just know that. And I trust in that. And it's happened to me so many times. I can't even describe it.
As you well know, Dredd, I'm not a golf guy. However,
you're not a golf cart guy.
Well, that either now, right? But
yeah.
I've taken, this is years ago, I guess, but I've taken to calling those kinds of things celestial mulligans.
Oh, okay, yeah, very good. That's good. That sounds like some kind of crap I would make up. I like
right.
Yeah, celestial mulligan, right? I fun. It's like I got to miss it. I get another chance at it.
Good. Yep.
It is good. So, I think that's where we're heading.
Yeah. All right. Let's do a quick and we're out.
And we're out.
And we're out.
Scars on our hands, hope in our chest. We're not defined by the weight of the test. Brothers in step, we carry the flame. Different roads, but the heartbeat's the same. Every man's got a story to tell. From the valley low to the mountaintop, yeah. Every man's got a story inside. Standing strong, we won't hide. Every man, yeah, every man's got a story. We've been broken, we've been bruised, but we rise again and we don't get to choose. Through the fire, through the fight, every man's story burns in the night. Scars on our hands, hope in our chest. We're not not defined by the weight of the test. Brothers in step, we carry the flame. Different roads, but the heart beats the same. On a story to tell, from the valley low to the mountaintop yell. Every man's got a story inside. Different roads, but the heart beats the same. Every man's have a story to tell, from the valley low to the mountaintop yell. Every man's got a story inside. Standing strong, we won't hide. Every man, yeah, every man's got a story. Every man's got a story. Voices rise like thunder, they roll. Truth in the pain, it's shaking the soul. Chains may rattle, but they break in time. Every man's story is yours and mine. From the struggle to the glory, every man's got a story. In the dark or in the light, we keep marching through the night. Every man's got a story inside. Every man's got a story to tell. From the valley low to the mountaintop hill.